Hello.
This is In Real Time, a guided tour of my experience with a game. In this video, I'm going to be continuing my look at Doom Eternal. If you haven't already, please watch the first video before continuing. To catch up, the short version. I started the game, I hurt some demons, I talked to some people, learned some things, I learned some more things, and now I'm still playing the game. What? The last video covered the first hour of the game, and this one continues that first play session, and is way longer and more complicated, so I'm not going to put a bunch of work into a big silly intro like last time. So, take a seat, grab your fork and knife, you've eaten your veggies, now it's time for
The meat.
Or, for my non-carnivorous friends,
The protein-rich vegetable nut or bean-based meat substitute.
we pick up right where we left off, confused about some new mechanics.
What? Cheat codes don't disable. What do they do?
In this case, the pleasantly retro cheat codes and the
this?
upsettingly modern battle pass thing. We step out of a portal and into the... Why do I got tambourines at... I can accidentally bump a tambourine in my fucking vocal booth. Why? Why do I have that there, hanging? Okay, the tambourine is up. What was I on? We step out of a portal and into the Fortress of Doom. Once aboard, Vega informs us that our celestial locator is missing a component.
Of course my celestial locator is missing a component.
And that the flame belch is now ready for our approval. After some unnecessarily violent exploration...
Punch and interact with the same button.
Sorry. This single thing, combining the use button and the punch button, is spectacular characterization of Doomguy through the controls. I mean, what a statement. Making contextual use and punch the same button.
This guy is a hammer, and everything else is nails.
I swapped from a dot crosshair to a full one, decided to stick with it because...
That's an extremely, communicative HUD, whatever there.
Grab the flame belch, then I'm immediately teleported to the University of Conflagratory Eructation, where I learned that...
Cast big hot nasty burp on demon, make it burn!
While burning, any damage makes them drop lime-flavored candies that refill my armor, and, even better... I learned that when you shoot a demon's head off, it makes a noise appropriate for a toddler's toy. It fills my baby brain with harm and goopy endorphins. I'm tasked with obtaining a Sentinel Crystal. It's a progression item, sort of Eternal's version of the Argent Energy from 2016, though with a small tweak.
Oh, just a Sentinel crystal?
Like Argent Energy,
That's all you need?
each Sentinel Crystal boosts the Doomguy's maximum armor, health, or ammo.
Is this a Sentinel crystal?
The twist is,
Okay, it's the thing I was trying to punch earlier.
there are now unique perks unlocked by upgrading each of the 2 requisite stat increases. This does a lot of things, but I don't know. We just got started. It's probably not that important anyway, so let's just keep going. Then I head to the portal and...
Dang. Glad I didn't break nothing.
In order to prevent similar accidents, I do some quick keybind futzing to try to wrangle the controls into some sort of shape that'll stick in my brain, though I don't. I activate the portal and... Oh, by the way, the name Doomguy is canonical. See, anyway, I jump through the portal to... Exultia. This place is rad. It's thick with atmosphere, and unlike anything else that we've seen in a Doom game. Probably. I didn't check. It's towering spires.
Wait, are we on Earth?
Statues of sword guys in what appears to be high level and maybe even raid tier armor, and this monumental stab wouldn't feel out of place on Azeroth. But despite it feeling like Archimond is about to destroy a sandcastle version of this fucking place, Warcraft 3. The good place. Exultia fits with the rest of Doom's metal album cover vibe. I give this environment an A+. I'd like to see the series lean even heavier into this fantasy bullshit, which it does! In just a moment, once I figure out where to... Here, with this cool green ghost wolf. Then I find a demonic comic about Exultia. Cool, I wonder what it says.
What treachery comes from our darkest selves, driven by greed and want, for I have been deceived by the deed. They came north with I and the priests.
Okay, great. Anyway, next I meet a gargoyle, hurt the gargoyle, then a door opens and...
Whoa! 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 Whoa!
This is the Hell Knight. A bad guy so mean, they made him 3 times.
I don't have time to talk about why, but I love him. I mean, look at this introduction.
Whoa! 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 Jesus Christ, dude!
Through the door, the ghost wolf leads me to the Infinity Gauntlet, which gives me the ability to...
Blood punch. Finally.
Blood punch. Blood punch is like a really big, mean punch. As I mentioned in the last video, it specializes in making blood come out. When you do it, the punch, once used, needs to be filled back up with guts before it can go again. I guess the blood gets sucked up into the Doom guy's hands while he does his grim work, and then that makes the hands get all big and swollen, and then that's what makes the punches hurt more. I haven't read the Codex entry. It's a strange ability, one that I'm sure won't come up again. My dad gave me this book. Soup fin shark? That's offensive. My next trial is of this shockingly hazardous hallway, which is shockingly well suited to test my fun new vampiric punch.
Another thing already?
At the end of the hallway, my first rune. Runes return, though slightly altered from the form they took in 2016. Back then, they were unlocked by finding and completing rune challenges. Each rune was connected to a specific challenge in a specific spot. If you didn't find a rune or couldn't complete the challenge, you wouldn't get that rune. In Eternal, you have access to all 9 from the double jump, allowing you to pick and choose the ones that you want. As you unlock more, you can swap them out at will. Runes offer game-changing abilities and skills. Sometimes they're passive, like air control, which gives you more control while in the air. Sometimes they're activated under certain conditions, like blood fueled, which gives you a speed boost after a glory kill. And some are even active abilities, like the one I choose here, Chrono
Strike.
Chrono Strike slows down time when you activate a weapon's alt fire in the air, and it's... Runes are the second progression system introduced so far, the first being the Sentinel Crystals.
Remember?
There are also weapon upgrade points, which we'll meet in a minute, and then finally, the Praetor suit upgrades. Which, like, I just think that maybe these should have just gone. They're just not really that interesting. They range from exploration aids, like revealing items on your map or widening the map reveal radius, to small improvements like faster weapon switching or reducing the damage you take from explosive barrels. But, I mean, there are some fun things, like hit and run, which refreshes your dash on a glory kill, or frag stock up, which gives you an extra charge on your frag grenade, and... Wait a second. Did I say those were fun? Are they? Well, they are useful. Do I like having the upgrades? Yeah. They make me better at killing, which I like. Some of the Praetor suit upgrades are even significant enough to unlock new strategies and fights. Ice Drops makes health drop from damaged or killed frozen units, but most of them just kind of make you better at stuff you already do. The two I mentioned before, Hit and Run and Frag Stock Up, are significant upgrades, but don't change how I use either ability. I assume Hit and Run helps make sure I have the dash when I need it. Honestly, I never thought about my dash cooldown before getting the upgrade, and never thought about it after either. Very occasionally, I'll intentionally fire off both frag grenades. Most of the time, a second charge also just means it's there when I need it. Which, before the upgrade, was a constant problem. Sometimes I'd use it when I need it, but whiff it, leaving me open to getting chomped. Or I'd use it when I didn't need it, and then wish I'd saved it. Which taught me to use it conservatively, which sucked. I felt like I wasn't free to experiment and learn how to use it. With the upgrade, it's less risky to mess up, so I use it more liberally and have learned how and when to use it. In a game that requires you to master and regularly use every tool in its bulging toolbox, that kind of feels like it should be the default. The upgrade doesn't really add anything, it fixes something. I don't really like that. That's not very rip and tear to me. The other progression systems, weapon mod upgrades, runes, and sentinel crystals, are bigger and meatier. Weapon mod upgrades, particularly the final upgrade in each path, significantly alter Doom Eternal's primary ludic verb, namely, gun shoot, or make bullets, in order to hurt. These upgrades give you lots of interesting options for spending your weapon upgrade points, with rewards like... well, most of them change things like reload speed or explosion size to make them faster and hit harder, but there's some real good shit, like the final upgrade for the Plasma Rifle's Heat Blast mod, which makes the Heat Blast Flavor Blast your already pretty tasty plasma-flavored bullets, turning them a spicy red and boosting their damage for a bit. This sets up a fun loop. Shoot plasma, flavor blast, shoot more plasma, build charge, flavor blast, plasma blast, build charge, flavor blast, chainsaw, plasma flavor, build, rippins, and tear Pete. Can you tell I'm doing my best Sonic from Sonic Adventure impression with that last one? This is a very, 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 very good upgrade. It makes me feel like a badass when I use it. It looks and sounds great. It drastically changes the way I use that gun. And also, I unlocked it by completing a challenge that pushed me to play riskier and get better with the gun first. Every mod has a mastery challenge to complete before you can unlock the final upgrade. I love this system. Mastery challenges are diverse, challenging, and encourage new and riskier play. They're fun and make you better at game, and they're fun and make you better at game. They're fun and make you better at the game, and the rewards are huge. And did I mention how you get the currency used to upgrade your weapons? Hurting demons! Wow! To unlock the other upgrades, you can find them scattered across levels, like the Praetor Suit tokens, or find them scattered across levels, like the runes, or find them scattered across levels, like the Sentinel crystals. Sorry. Yeah? Uh-huh. 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 So you can just... Uh-huh. So my producers just informed me that you can also find a big coin that lets you skip the mastery challenges. So, thanks for the correction. You're welcome. We've already met the Sentinel Crystals, which upgrade your maximum health, ammo, or armor, and their second layer of special perks, like Loot Magnet, which sucks up resources from further away, Belch Armor Boost, which makes flaming demons drop armor faster, the best of the bunch, Quick Draw Belch, lowers the cooldown of the Flame Belch, the offensive tool for replenishing armor, which makes it much easier to work it into the combat loop. After I got this upgrade, it was much easier to remember to use, and it didn't feel quite so terrible to mess one up. Hang on. That sounds a lot like the Praetor Suit stuff. Mostly incremental upgrades, making you better at stuff you're already doing, and a few bigger upgrades that make an important tool easier to use. Well, that also isn't very rip and tear to me, unlike the final progression system, the runes, which, well, if Chrono Strike were a physical object instead of a tender, juicy upgrade, it would be a childhood teddy bear because of how warm and cuddly I feel when I use it to bust some chumps down to their dumpy stumps. It's not just incredibly badass to look at and do. It allows for moments of precise shooting not possible at your normal speed, like a drive-by in GTA, but without the upsetting baggage of real-life gun violence.
I know that GTA doesn't slow down for the drive-bys, but the joke stands.
So, okay, it's not really like that at all, but it also isn't a very interesting progression system. Chrono Strike feels great to have and use, but it was the first rune that I got. The other two that I have, Blood Fueled and Air Control, were the second and third runes that I got. And now, I'm done. Because I have the three that I want. Each are badass and have a massive effect on my playstyle to the point where I can't imagine using anything else. So, I was effectively done with this progression system by the third rune. The progression systems in Doom Eternal just aren't interesting. So, why, then? Why have them at all? Doom 2016 was the first Doom game to have anything like this, and lots of people, myself included, didn't really like the progression systems in that game. So why bring it over to Eternal? And if they have to have progression, why so many of these teeny and inconsequential upgrades? Well, though I do have my view on the progression systems in Doom Eternal, bad. I'm not going to pretend that there aren't answers to these questions. Okay, dog, you're free. I'm done filming it. You wanna go somewhere else? I just didn't want you f***ing jumping on me no more. Puppy dog, puppy dog, puppy dog is puppy. The people on YouTube better like you. You gotta pay for yourself at some point. Actually, there are lots and lots and lots and lots of reasons, most of which I will not talk about in this video. One that I will talk about, though only briefly, is that progression systems like this are built to give the player a feeling of progress. Progression mechanics drip feed moments of achievement or improvement and keep the stick dangling in front of the player well stocked with carrots. That's the player eating the carrot. Progression systems are fundamental to game design. Every game has them, though they don't all look like this. In this video, I'm going to be focusing primarily on these RPG-light player-led upgrade systems, though acquiring weapons, new and harder enemies, and even the level-based campaign are all also progression systems. Giving the player valuable secrets or goodies to find gives them some downtime between fights, which gives the levels texture and keeps them from getting fatigued by constant and intense combat. But there is another reason why these upgrades exist as they do. To create a difficulty curve. This is probably most obvious with the stat upgrades. I mean, you start Doom Eternal with 100 health and 50 armor, but I finished the game with 200 health and 150 armor. That's a significant difference. Of course the first Arachnotron you face is going to be harder than the 200th. You can get shot, 133.33% more times before dying. That lets id give us plenty of time to get down and dirty with the smaller enemies without it being too easy, while letting us square off against hordes of them and their bosses later. Upgrades also modulate the usefulness of abilities, for instance, the ones I mentioned before, the frag grenade and the flame belch. maybe they wanted those abilities harder to use for a while for balancing purposes. Whatever the reason, because of the way the upgrades work, those abilities got easier to use as the challenges I was facing got harder. Basically, as the demons get stronger and more plentiful, you get stronger and more skillful, both because of your real human experience with the game and artificial improvements to your stats and abilities. So I do see value in the progression systems of this game. I just wish they were better. The weapon upgrades are great, basically no complaints there, and the runes offer great upgrades, but the system as a whole is flat and runs out of steam quickly. I can't help but imagine the Praetor suit and Sentinel upgrades merged together, keeping the exploration rewards and the difficulty modulation, but cutting down on some of the complexity and bloat. Maybe some sort of Doom level or something. No, not like that. Though this screen offers a clue suggesting why these systems are the way they are. Doom Eternal was released on March 20th, 2020, nearly 3 full years after June 25th, 2017, the day that it was mandated by the highest and most corrupt authority in the land, the free market, that every big video game with guns was required by the holy laws of capitalism to contain a battle pass. That day is also known as Fortnite's release day. This is a joke. Actually, it's probably more likely because of the RPGification of modern AAA games. Doom 2016 had it, but less. And the upgrade systems are one of the least good elements of that game. Doom was refreshing in 2016 because it bucked modern trends, eschewing cover, realism, right trigger, left trigger, zoom and pop gameplay to make something bold and uncompromising. A big, dumb shoot game for weirdos. I don't know what about their massive success breaking from the pack suggested to id Software that that's where they should double down. But I do know 2 things. One, the release date that I mentioned before was for Fortnite Saves the World, not the Battle Royale mode, which came out a few months later on September 26, which was the mode that popularized the Battle Pass. And 2, that Doom Eternal's Battle Pass was probably surfaced during the campaign to encourage single players, as in players playing alone, not like billionaire single player Bruce Wayne, to try out their multiplayer mode, but I haven't played that, and third cut, baby. Again, the room immediately following my upgrade provides a spectacular place to try it out, and so, then below, another fight where
Whoa! God!
Fuck you! Unbelievable!
This is what they're always like?
I love the Hell Knight. I said in the last video that the Cacodemons weak point is a little too easy to exploit early on, and, well, this is the section that gave me that opinion.
Always with the eyes with them.
After this little fight, we're rewarded with our first weapon upgrade point, then top of the twister to ya, some cool concept art, wonder what the story behind it is.
The Cosmic Spear Collector holds wastes of the upper planes to the protagonist.
I'm done. Yeah, I think I'm done with these codex entries. And finally, a glowing action figure of myself gives me the ability to move forward real fast. The dash is a big change to the movement of this game. It is fast and also good. Actually, this single move is probably the most important change from 2016 to Eternal. I don't really have time to get into why, but in short, making you move faster made everything move faster. Next I move, not fast, towards a circle on the ground. Under the circle is the Golden Snitch, which will give me enough points to win Doom Eternal immediately and prove how great and protagonisty I am. But this Northrend-ass motherfucker says I can't have it. Then he tells me that I can't kill any of the Hell Priests because it's against the rules, and then I bow to him while he explains some more rules, and while I'm leaving,
They are no longer your people to save.
this cutscene probably won't come back again. A short while after that ghostly chat, we're back in the arena from a few minutes ago, only this time it's been repopulated and the water covering the floor has been electrified. This The Floor is Lava style arena is a test of your air mobility skills and understanding of the dash.
Plus, you finding out too easy.
After chumping these lumps, I grab a sentinel battery, get a little lost and confused, and finally leap through a portal, bringing me back to a familiar environment with a familiar armament.
Same hellfire, same plasma rifle.
Shambling up to welcome me is another familiar face, the Revenant. This screechy skeleton has 2 missile launchers on his shoulders and an enthusiastic personality inside his juicy dome. I try out my new toy on him, which ends up being a spectacularly bad idea. Turns out his weak point is burst damage, like from the sticky grenade or scoped cannon, not sustained chip damage, like from the plasma rifle. I stand still too much, focus too much on the weak point, and eventually get squashed by a Hell Knight.
I love Hell Knights.
He squishes me a couple more times before I finally get him down with some focus fire from the plasma rifle. Then dismember and destroy the next few demons, using my fancy footwork to get through with little more than a scrap. Too easy, piece of cake. Too easy, piece of cake. The following section is full of purple goo that sticks to your size 38 boots, preventing you from jumping or moving at more than a crawl. They pair this obstacle with hidden tentacles that pop out of the goo. I like this goo. I like how it limits your greatest asset, your mobility, and I like how it's integrated into the combat arenas later on in the game. I also like it combined with the tentacles here. This section is slow and tense. It's a great change of pace. I like this goo. I like it. I like this goo. I like this goo. I like this goo. I like this goo. How have I never realized how weird a line? I like this goo. That's all. A short while later, I smash a cracked wall to find a blue face, then open a couple of doors and get into a big fight where I get stomped over and over and over and over and over and over and over. This is a big arena designed to get you airborne. There's these platforms across the lava, useful for a quick getaway, these boosters, and lots of monkey bars to swing from. Partially because of my growing ability to precisely target ARACHNOWRECKED's blaster with my sticky grenades, and despite my inelegant grasp of the aerial controls, I eventually get a handle on this fight and advance into an Arachno ambush in which I get Arachno squished.
Alright, man, you just cannot go toe-to-toe with that.
Later, I charge up this robot with a sentinel core.
Not to be confused with the sentinel battery or sentinel crystals. Ooh, no barf.
Which turns on his spear, ripping open this BFM, allowing me to enter him like he's some sort of demonic skyscraper. Then I take his elevator shaft like esophagus. Oh, honey, that's just a big old dang old demon elevator's what that is. Shoot, why don't you ride that dang old elevator like esophagus down here and get me some dang old cornbread? I made it out of my very own skin. Then I take his elevator shaft like esophagus down to the tummy lobby on the ground floor.
Does he just eat piles of people?
There must be some sort of convention or event. After leaving through a rear exit, no jokes about this, I make my way forward slowly, trudging through sticky purple goo when...
No.
Moments after I declared that going toe-to-toe with an Arachnotron was a futile task, id is forcing me to. My first attempt fails, partially because of my hesitation and terror, but my second take is unrelenting and intentional, allowing me to slowly progress.
Oh my god, I can't go this way.
The following section has another metal spider brain shaped obstacle. This time, instead of being trapped up close, I'm too far away, at the mercy of the cerebral cyber cooties sniping projectiles. This is good encounter design. id is using the same basic tools to make varied challenges while also training you to use different tactics against the same obstacles. After a bit of increasingly video game-y platforming, we meet a guy. He has a weird mohawk and armor very similar to mine. I give him the golden snitch and he also tells me it's no use to try to save people. He speaks to Doomguy as if they know each other, but I have no clue who he is or why he's here. I could probably find out who he is by reading this novella of a codex entry, but I'd rather be ripping and tearing. Cat hair alert. Why did I think this was a good idea? The codex in Doom Eternal just didn't grab me. Doom's did. I loved finding each little sapphire nugget of info. Bigger entries in Doom's codex were layered, revealing the information in chunks. Some entries are just fun gags, but most are very normal video game database stuff. But some use this layering to great effect. Take the entry for the Argent Energy Facility. It starts pretty basic, adverse weather conditions, interdepartmental transport, untethered cross-dimensional activity, and then the second chunk, punishment for not meeting your quota, warns of interdimensional encounters and advises not approaching non-human entities without executive supervision. The third level is advice on what to do when you find yourself caught in a level 3 demon contamination event. Step 1. Attempt to reach an emergency force field safety zone or bulkhead door. Do not run, as some of our transdimensional visitors are sensitive to movement. 2. Shut down any volatile equipment you may be using. Should you be unable to escape from the demons, it is important that you don't leave that plasma cutter running, where it could damage an important piece of machinery. Number 3. If there is no obvious escape route, and you have powered down your equipment, give yourself over to the demon willingly. Studies have shown that infuriating a demon by running away can cause additional frustration in the predator, and that may result in your body being too badly mutilated for useful post-mortem study. Simply kneel down, close your eyes, and wait. Remember, you can be as useful in death as you are in life.
June 2016 has anti-capitalist
Sorry, excuse me. If you'll allow me to reveal a bit about how this particular audiovisual sausage gets made, I had this big section here about how the layered codex entries give Doom's codex an arc, slowly revealing the depths of the UAC's depravity and the silliness of the game's self-aware tone, and I was going to contrast this with Doom Eternal's codex, which has one single note that it hits hard over and over and over, like Johnny Ramone playing a guitar solo. And that note is lore. Lots of lore. Lots of proper nouns fighting proper nouns at proper nouns over proper nouns. Surprise was impossible a second time. I understand why they went in this direction instead, and it is, I don't know, cute, like on brand, but without the surprise, without any replacement hook or reason to read them. Eternal's Codex quickly turns into homework, a history book you need to read to understand what's going on, and well, I don't do homework. I even had this fun joke where I was gonna go all,
you open and it's like, in the seventh age, there was chaos, and that's like, fuck yeah, doom, metal, bullshit, let's go. And then you open the third one and it's, in the eighth age, all was chaos, and then more. It's like, great, and then you read the third one and it's the same, and then you don't read the fourth. At least if you're me.
But after researching for this video, I think that my opinion on the Codex may have been influenced by the way Hugo Martin talks about it in Doom's, that no clips Doom Resurrected thing that I'm always fucking talking about. He specifically mentions the codex entry for the imp, which he says includes a line about curling into a ball and kissing your ass goodbye, but I can't find that entry. It's not the imp's entry, and I use the game's wiki to search all the rest of the codex for uses of the word ass because I specifically remember reading this, but it's not there. The one I mentioned before, the Argent facility, is the closest thing that I could find. Now, maybe he was referring to that and had some of the details wrong, but considering that I, remember reading that entry, I think Hugo Martin's excitement may have seeped deep enough into my brain that I see Doom's codex with rose-tinted glasses. Or, sanguine tinted, like the blood color. As a joke. Anyway, point is, Doom Codex good because fun surprise, but maybe not as big of a deal as I remember it to be, and Doom Eternal's Codex reminds me of a sign reading that I never did, so not as good. Following area contains a platforming challenge that just goes full on Mario. Platforms float logiclessly above the lava, power-ups dance and spin like a ballerina or something, and chains on fire, swing, and circle.
Hashtag put Doom Guy in Smash Challenge.
Id recognized that Doom's self-aware, proudly dumb, extremely a video game tone was among its greatest strengths, and Doom Eternal doubles down on some of those strengths. One of the more successful ways was leaning into boldly video gamey design in the visuals. The glowing, floating, rotating pickups, impossible platforms, extra lives. Like Doom 2016 before it, Doom Eternal loves being a video game. At least in its aesthetics, maybe not its themes and substance in the same way that 2016 was, though we'll get to that in just a little bit. This platforming challenge is interesting because it completely defeats me. I keep falling, being forced to restart, until finally I fall and die, only to be resurrected in the lava by my extra life, allowing me to cheese my way to the next section. As, bad as that sounds, I like the platforming in Doom Eternal. First-person platforming gets an automatic no from many people, and I understand why. Doom Eternal skirts some of the possible unpleasantness by being fast and forgiving. The challenges are rarely frustrating or trivial. They usually sit in that sweet spot between the two. Easy enough to complete on the first or second try, but challenging enough to be at least a little engaging. And when you fall, you don't die. You just Zelda-style pop back up on that ledge. So, even better, the platforming challenges train your aerial movement capabilities, building muscle memory that comes in handy as the fights get larger and faster. And even better is that the Doom Guy's indecorously prodigious horizontal leap plays into the power fantasy. We haven't seen much of that yet, but I was consistently surprised through the middle of the game at the kinds of ridiculous distances I could cover. I understand that this increased focus on platforming might push some away, but for me, it feels like a logical progression of Doom 2016. Increased vertical movement. After cheesing my way through the platforming segment, I get into a cool fight. Some of my fundamentals have improved, though I'm still struggling with some of the new tools like the Flame Belch. Once the demons have had their fill of rips and cried all of their tears, a portal opens. Go through. Level end. Fortress of Doom. Exit. Through the desktop.
So ends day 1 of Doom Eternal.
Day 2 starts slow. I install the Sentinel battery,
Not the Sentinel core or the Sentinel crystals.
and learn about the Doom Guy's house's special progression system. I'm being kind of snotty about this. It's pretty uninvasive. Basically, you get these things that let you open doors that contain progression items, cosmetics, whatever, and it's fine. It doesn't really get in the way. It doesn't really add anything either, other than a slight feeling of progress as the doors open throughout your base, and another fucking thing to fucking find while exploring the fucking level. Next up, I pick up the... Shit, what was the pickup button again? Next up, keybind futzing, and then I pick up the... Okay. Next up, keybind futzing, then an education on the ice bomb, and then I get the ice bomb, some exploration, which leads to Doom Guy's office? Half god, half man cave? gamer den. It's got toys, guitars, books, magazines, a sick gamer rig, trash, snacks. It's cute. There are cute references to id and Doom's history, and some of the jokes in the book titles or magazine covers are funny. But you know how I mentioned
Combining the use button and the punch button is spectacular characterization of Doom Guy through the controls.
that? Might seem like a reach to some, but to those, I'd say that games are big. Games are complicated. Games take an unthinkable amount of time and effort to make. Creating every little detail in this room took hundreds of hours of work from dozens of talented and passionate people. Even seemingly small decisions like combining the use and punch button are carefully considered by several people trying to make the very, very, very best thing that they can. Whether intentional or not, those people deserve credit for tiny moments of good characterization, like the punch to use, and are responsible for any weird characterization, like The Office. Between the sloppy desk, gaming rig, and framed photos of himself on the wall, it all gestures towards a humanity, ego, and slovenliness that I didn't expect from this avatar of destruction. According to The Office, canonically, Doom Guy is a gamer who likes sick-ass guitars, reads magazines about demons, and allegorical literature about Soviet Russia. Hello again. When I wrote the last video, I'd neither written this next part, which I teased a few times, or even finished the game. Back then, I was pretty sure the narrative in Doom Eternal was going to go one way, which it did, and I'll get to that in a minute, but what I failed to predict was that by the time I reached the end of the story, I would have nothing to say about it. I have thoughts about it in contrast to Doom 2016, but absolutely zero thoughts about the narrative in this game on its own. It's there. It's got cool world design. They nail the metal album cover aesthetic, but as far as the actual events, the things that happen, I just don't care. It gives enough context to make the levels feel like pieces of a whole rather than disconnected shooting galleries, and stays out of the way enough, but not much else. There's a reason why the angel lady wants to take over Earth. She's using demons, or on the side of demons, trying to collect souls so they can power some big furnace or something. Some cool stuff happens. You shoot a hole in Mars. That rules. But it took some big and risky swings with Doom. It took some big and risky swings with Doom 2106. They reintroduced a series built into the foundations of video games as we know them today and said, look at shit. Look at shit. It rules. It's dumb, but it rules. Doom Eternal doubled down on the video gaminess, the metalness, and some of the silliness, but it made one big mistake. It tried to make us care about its story. John Carmack, one of the creators of id and the original Doom, once said, "Story in a game is like story in a porn movie. It's expected to be there, but it's not that important." If you ask me, that's a shitty and reductive idea about narrative in video games. And also, Doom Guy from Doom 2016 would absolutely agree with him. Okay, let's take a second to compare these two representations of the same character. What has Doom Eternal shown Doom Guy doing so far? He's heard a lot of demons. He's a gamer. He's heroically acting on behalf of the people of Earth by opposing the forces of heaven, hell, and his former compatriots, the Sentinels. He watches and listens when people talk. He kneels to a big ghost. He has a face shown in third person. He has a fucking office. And although we haven't gotten to it yet, a history and traumas that shape his current ideals and motivations. What does Doom Guy do in Doom? Well, he wakes up chained, naked to a stone slab and immediately kills a demon with his bare hands. He dismisses the first instructions given to him. He coldly uses dead bodies as key cards.
Access granted.
Intentionally disobeys orders and destroys the Argent Energy Facility, apparently just because he wants to. After that, he just... Occasionally he takes a portal to go to a different place where demons are to hurt them, but yeah, mostly just...
Demonic presence eliminated.
There's no one to save on Mars, no heroism, no all-powerful deities scolding him, telling him that his actions are of no use. The most he shows any awareness of or empathy for the metric tons of people pulp polluting this facility is this glance.
For the betterment of mankind. Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now.
He eventually starts following Samuel Hayden's instructions, but only because he's either forced to or because the instructions lead him to more demons to hurt. Aside from S. Hayden, Doom Guy talks to a robot, who he kills, the bad lady, who he kills, and that's it. Do you see the difference there? New Doom Guy is a hero. Plays by his own rules, saving humanity from the forces of heaven and hell. Doom Guy doesn't give a shit about Samuel Hayden's problems. He doesn't care about the people who died in his facility. He doesn't show any personality or desires at all, except fist-bumping toys, breaking shit, and hurting demons. Doom Guy Eternal is a strong and silent video game protagonist. Doom Guy 2016 is the player's restless bloodlust made manifest. New Doom Guy is a godlike figure, single-handedly facing down an unstoppable force to save what is left of humanity. And Doom Guy is pure id, pure violence, a pure avatar for a simple game with one goal: hurt demons fast. They're two very different portrayals of the same character, but is one better than the other? Yeah, obviously. Doom Guy 2016 is a much more interesting character by being less of a character. Doom is a simple game with a simple goal, and its protagonist reflects this. Doom Guy Eternal's backstory and heroic motivations make him less complex and less interesting. Fucking everybody's got a backstory, and everybody's got a fucking whatever. Who gives a shit? You are way cooler when you're just a fucking Tasmanian devil ripping through a fucking big old goddamn... Ugh. It was so good. It was so good, and they ruined it. They ruined it. I mean, they didn't ruin it. It was fine. In an early trailer, id showed off a segment from later in the game where Doom Guy treats a small group of actual alive humans with the same kind of disdain that he treats everything in 2016. That moment in this game rips. It's awesome. But nothing else in the game did anything like this. It doesn't do it again. There aren't any more moments of Doom Guy acting like nothing matters to him. The Mars thing is the fucking closest thing that we got, and don't get me wrong, cool, but I don't fucking know, man. It's not the same whenever it's not a fleshy human part. In fact, with the rest of his characterization, this moment kind of starts to feel like something that the big blue guy who doesn't wear pants in Watchmen would do. He's a dick to regular people, but he bows to ancient ghosts. Like, clearly he cares about stuff. Some stuff. His disdain is no longer a reflection of the player's desire to get past the talking and into the killing. It's now a superior being's disregard for those beneath him. And that sucks. And this is why the narrative of this game is disappointing. Doom's narrative and its protagonist were perfect for that game. When id scrapped Doom 4 and reformed it as Doom, they left behind a self-serious narrative full of exposition trying to give Doomguy a reason to want to kill demons. They understood that the player already wanted to kill demons. They bought a fucking Doom game and shaped their protagonist around that central desire. And this is fucking their words, by the way, from the documentary. I'm talking about it again. I'm probably gonna put a clip here. I'm not sure yet, but that's fucking their... They think that. And then, in Doom Eternal, they gave him a reason to want to kill demons. Just keep making him smash shit like fucking... I'll tell ya. I was gonna say, it feels like Doomguy's been down my throat, and then I was like, I don't want to say that. Probably not very gentle. In Doom Eternal, Doomguy becomes a character, and id asks us to care about him. Doing this, they lost one of the most special parts of Doom. Not only was it a masterpiece of game design, not only did it have the best soundtrack in any piece of audio visual media, do not fucking at me. It was smart in arty ways. Its narrative blended with its gameplay. Doom is art, because when you play Doomguy as a twitchy weirdo who doesn't give a shit about whatever exposition Dr. Sammy was enunciating, you were role-playing. Doomguy's motivations may have changed, but the player's hasn't. Doom Eternal wants us to care about Doomguy. Doomguy wants to save Earth. But I just want to hurt demons. It's lucky then that my next objective is to
Punish the demons in the demon prison.
The demon prison, which Doomguy apparently calls the
Ripatorium.
is a wonderful place with plenty of demons to hurt, but nothing nasty enough to give you any trouble. And best of all, the Muzak speakers Doomguy installed in there play BFG Division, a monster of a track from the previous game. It's the location for my upcoming destination wedding, and I love it! You know, it's funny. The Ripatorium and the Gamer Den are a little too silly for the Savior of Earth vibe that Doomslayer has going on in Doom Eternal, but would have been perfect for the anarchic weirdo of the previous game. At the end, a reward. It's the first Praetor suit token. Speaking of clutter added to encourage me to do shit that I don't want to do, remember how I said earlier that those progression items that I don't like were there to encourage exploration? Well, speaking of exploration, after gobbling up the Praetor suit token, I wrap up my exploration of the Fortress of Doom and take a portal to the Cultist base, which will be the focus of the next episode. Hello again. Okay, so I'm gonna leave y'all for just a minute before I do this end part because I have to feed the hummingbirds. Can you see all those ants? Can you see all those ants? Gross. Camera's not even on. Nice and fresh and clean. You don't want to fill it too much because you gotta change it the next day anyway. So they're little. They don't need a lot. You may have noticed that it's not snowing anymore. Yeah, it took a long time to make this. Who's that? Somebody. This episode is half of what episode 2 was originally. I've gone through my old plan and I've changed it significantly. My current plan is for five more episodes for a total of 7. Now, hopefully, most of those will be shorter. 20 to 30 minutes is what I'm shooting for. These are not just the first videos I've ever made. They're the first things I've written from front to back that weren't, a 4-minute punk song. I've never done anything like this before, and it's a learning experience. Yeah, we'll call it that. We'll call it a learning experience. Figuring out how to make these individually is hard enough. Figuring out how to make them as episodic pieces of a coherent whole, it's a lot. Before I split it up, episode 2 had a better balance between looking at the game itself and talking about the, relevant concepts. It was also over an hour and a half long. Now, after the split, this episode focuses a lot more on conceptual stuff, like the progression systems or the characterization of the Doom guy, and episode 3, the next one, is almost entirely about my adventures in the cultist base. Episode 4 is full of capital BBI, big-brained ideas. I think splitting it up was the right decision, but it was an act of desperation, not of intention. And if you squint, I think you'll be able to see the cracks in the final product, but c'est la vie. I deeply appreciate anyone sticking around for these growing pains. I can make no promises about a release schedule just yet, but I can promise 3 things. 1, I am working on this. I am working on this. I am working on this as hard and as often as I am able. Trust me. Number 2, I am going somewhere with this. There's the final episode of this series focuses on one single moment that recontextualized everything that came before, and I believe I need to talk about everything that came before first, including stuff like progression and the characterization of the Doom guy, in order to talk about that moment. Whether or not that moment is as interesting to anyone else as it is to me, I can't say, but I can say that it is very interesting to me. So, feels worth saying. And the last thing is that I will finish this series on Doom Eternal. These new shorts are really short, and you can see my underwear out of the bottom. But, so, I'm going to take the next 2 scripts that I have going in the sous vide, then I'm going to yank them out, season them, toss them in a cast iron production, give them a nice sear. What that means is that the next 2 episodes are written. I just need to record them, slap some game footage on there. How hard could it be? So before I go, I have a couple of thankses that I want to say. Number one, to my wonderful friend Cassie Baker. She wrote and produced anything that you heard in this video that wasn't Doom music or a heavily copyrighted song that was chopped up or distorted enough that hopefully an algorithm doesn't detect it. So yeah, that was all her. She makes her own music under the name Cool Tapes. You can find links to that in the description. There's also her band, Stretch Panic, who are really great that are in there. She also teaches music to kids mainly, but she could teach adults too, theoretically. So if you wanted that, I recommend it. She's great. Speaking of the description of this video, that's also where you'll find how to engage with my brand on twitter.com or the more infrequently updated Instagram my wife runs for me. That's also where you'll find my Ko-Fi, coffee, however you fucking pronounce that shit, and my Patreon if you like this enough to help me do it as a full-time job. Or hell, even a part-time job. Right now, I'm sitting at a whopping $4 per video, which is both not very much and a lot more than I expected at this point, if I'm going to be honest. He's not in the $10 per video best pair of friends category, where one of the rewards is your name in the credits, but special. But I'm extremely kind and generous, so I'm going to shout him out anyway. My bunny's throwing a fit because his pellets are empty, and the doves are throwing a fit because I haven't fed the bird feeder yet. I hope y'all can see that because there's a whole fucking gang of them up there. Go on! They knock all the sunflower seeds out, and none of the birds can get them, and I just have to refill it. You see all those plants growing down there? That's all from those fucking doves. They just knocked the shit over. Anyway. Computer went to sleep. Oh, fuck. Oh my god. Oh, I love getting older. There's a hummingbird. I hope that you get to see one. I'm gonna check these cameras before I go any further. So anyway, thank you, Alan, for the money and for being my first Patreon backer. It's really sweet. Also, I switched it from monthly to buy video because I felt bad because it was just charging you while I wasn't releasing anything. Sorry. Alan is a friend from back when I went outside and talked to people. He is also one of the best drummers in Austin, Texas. He's in a band called Big Bill, an extremely good band. I put in my 2 weeks. I put in my 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the best "Just Quit My Job" anthem that I can imagine. I have screamed, I put in my 2 weeks, I put in my 2 weeks at their shows immediately after giving my 2 weeks at a job, and it is mwah! Anyway, their Bandcamp is in the description. That's all. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye. Oh, God.
No.